Hey everybody, how's your day going today? Uh, Life's been so crazy over the last couple years. I know everybody probably knows. Um, Wanted to chat today, just kind of reflect on some things. I was supposed to start making videos a long time ago, like 8, 9, 10 months ago, but I ended up getting 2 jobs. I got fired from one. I'll have to get into that some other time. But I was feeling like it didn't really get me anywhere. I lost a lot of my spiritual progress during that time, and now I'm trying to get it back. But I wanted to focus today on kind of paying attention to how the world is going. So, the scriptures say, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." So what does that even really mean? In my opinion, you have a lot of people doing that right now. So the left thinks they're good, the right thinks they're good. The right thinks the left is bad, the left thinks the right is bad. The religions of the world think they're all right. The witches and warlocks think that they're right. In reality, everything's gone to the extreme and it's become wicked in its own way. The only thing that's truly good is that straight narrow path, and how do you get there? That's only for you to decide, but the way has to be through the Son. And I don't mean a man, I mean the original form of God's Son, who is the living Word. So if we think of ourselves as body, soul, and spirit, and God made us in His likeness, in His image, He too is body, soul, and spirit, but not three separate entities. The soul is His words and His actions, which He sacrificed for us, and they took the form of a man so that man can relate to Him. But the words still live. That's the resurrection of His word coming back again. It never died. It does not return void. His spirit is the life-giving force, the air, the breath of life that gives all spiritual things ability to coexist, because we're all in the spirit. And that's how we are connected, is through God's spirit that gives us life. His physical body is a fire, an all-consuming fire, but a fire nonetheless. And it's also a refining fire. So when we go through the fire, when we go through refinement, we come out better. Our spirit, soul, and body have to work as one, just as His had to work as one. If we have the likeness of His image, we have to do all the things that He does to a lesser degree, because we're not God, but we have God traits that we have to purify, we have to perfect, we have to let Him finish the work in us. So when we see other people in the world going through all these different paths, I think it's okay. There's something you can learn from everything. But you don't stay there. You don't make that your home. You don't make any one religion your home, anyone's doctrine your calling card. You don't go to the left-hand path, learn about the darkness and or the metaphysical things, and then go fully into it and become a black magic artist, or not an artist, a black magic spellcaster, or going to the dark arts of music and entertainment. A lot of those things fall into the left-hand path. It's a generalized thing. It goes deeper than that. But basically, the right hand goes to the religion, the left hand goes to science, spirituality, and the arts. So people start off usually on one or the other, and then they take the leap all the way to the other side, and then they get stuck in more bondage. Each side brings its own bondage. But that straight and narrow path through the Son, through His living Word, is how we get to that straight and narrow path. So we learn His Word, we apply His Word, we understand Spirit, we understand the Holy Spirit, our spirit, and the spirits of everything around us. Through the narrow gate is keeping God's commandment. It is realizing that we have a spiritual dimension to us, and at the same time we don't think we're our own God. It's having some doctrine and some knowledge and wisdom, but not saying we're a religion and that our religion is the only one that is right. His Word says that at the end, many people will be saved of every tribe, nation, and kindred. It doesn't say only Christians will be saved, only Jewish people will be saved, only Muslim people will be saved. A whole multitude of people from every tribe, nation, and kindred will be saved. And how does that happen? They find that middle path. They find that straight and narrow path. And when you're going through changes in your life, it's hard sometimes. I understand. Especially financially right now. You know? When I was working both jobs, it really wasn't getting me anywhere. I was trying to support my family, my mother, my pets. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a family of my own in terms of children. But I'm trying to take care of who I do have around that lives with me. And as a man, you're supposed to do that. But at the same time, I've realized I'm 36 years old. My whole life, I've tried everything. And I've done things according to my strength with what I thought was God-driven ability. But I've slowly run myself into the ground in many different ways. And all for the wrong reasons. I've gained a lot of knowledge and understanding from God. But at the same time, I've lacked in love. And before it was the opposite. I had a lot of love and kindness and charity to my fellow man. But I had no instincts, no knowledge or wisdom. And I did stupid things. So, the last few years I think I've been going through a refining process. Sometimes it feels like it's a consuming fire. That I'm going to be consumed completely. And I'm sure some of you out there feel the same way. But a lot of times we think we're being consumed and we're really not. The road is hard when you're doing things correctly. It's also hard if you're not doing things correctly, but you want to do them correctly. And you're trying to reflect. You're trying to do good spiritual practices, good religious practices, good self-healing practices. And it's also hard when you're doing those things, when you don't realize there's a time when you surrender. You have to surrender. And I'm doing that to a point. I'm trying to get fully to the point where I surrender to God. All the way. I've run into a couple people who are completely surrendered to Him. And that means we have to trust Him more. We have to trust the process. And not push things so much. I've noticed we're all pushing things, pushing agendas, pushing what we think is right or wrong, pushing ideologies, pushing ourselves. But what are we pushing for? What are we pushing towards? This world, it's not going to last, for one. And for two, they've made it way hard to do anything. Way too hard. 15, 16 years ago, when I did live on my own, no one needed my help and I was on my own. My rent was $550 a month for a one bedroom. Other people around me I knew could get a studio for $340, $380, $400. 2 bedrooms maybe between $600 and $800. 3 bedrooms about $1,000 to $1,500. 4 is about $2,000 to $3,000. Over the last 12 years, 13 years, it's gone up by 3. You can barely find a 1 bedroom for between $900 and $1,200. You can barely find a 2 bedroom for between $1,100 and $1,800. 3 bedrooms, you're getting into the mid 2000s. I live in Colorado, and it's gone so skyrocket high, it's not even funny. And I realize the rest of the country's gone that way. The rest of the world's getting that way. They're putting such a tight fist around all of us. We're in slavery, we're in bondage. Everything we do, we're working those 2 jobs. Sometimes people are working 3 jobs. And they're frustrated. I feel frustrated. I feel run down. For the first time in 16 years, I'm so tired that I kind of just not give up, but pretty close to give up. Tired. And I know some of you feel the same way. So I want to encourage you guys to look within yourselves. Take everything you've learned, whatever path you've been on, and try and get to that straight and narrow path. And I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It's going to be harder in some ways. But at the same time, we're all still here. We're all still alive. There's certain things we all have to learn, I think, too. Things we have to heal from. There's things that happened to me when I was young. I thought I healed from it. And over the last 5 or 6 years, I get flashbacks or something happens where it reminds me of this time, that time, the other time. And then we all get kind of frustrated. That frustration becomes bitterness. That bitterness becomes envy and strife. And it causes us all to fight with one another. The real enemy is spiritual. Even though our families, our so-called friends, the people closest to us cause us the most financial problems, spiritual problems, ideological problems. They're there for a reason. And we take care of them, we show them kindness, no matter what. Whether they have a different belief set of us, we still show them the same gratitude. We still show them love. Whether they're on the left-hand path, the left political party, the right political party, the right-hand path. We all are trying to find our identity right now. And some people are kind of closed shut. They're just stuck. Some people are distracted. Some people are a fan of entertainment. Too much social media. I've been down that road. I got rid of my social media accounts except for YouTube. I'm trying to make these videos. I'm trying to grow more with other people. I want to find a good community of people through these platforms and connect both with them, and we can both learn something from each other, you know? So right now, at this present time, most things in the earth are evil. There is still some good, of course. There's always going to be until the very end. But the things that drive us, the things that drive our ideas, the things that drive our communities, the people that drive our entertainment, the people that drive our politics, the people that oppress us, they come in all shapes, colors, sizes, ideological differences. They're all mostly wicked. What happens in a situation with that? War increases, strife increases, lawlessness increases, bitterness increases, and it causes a stumbling block to those of us who only want to have peace, only want to show love, be loved. And some people aren't receiving the love they have fought and striven and driven and have strived to receive. They're not receiving that love. So then they become bitter. And sometimes you really are just in a place where you feel alone. Maybe you are completely alone. But we're never fully alone. God is with us through the fire, through the trials. And we can't blame Him for the way the world is right now. We blame ourselves. We can blame the spiritual deities who've confused us. We can blame the fallen angels who deceived the nations at the very beginning and have taught men all these things and women all these things that they should not have known in the first place. And we can't blame the devil for everything either. Everyone always wants to blame the devil, the devil, the devil. Of course, he's the prince of these wicked deities. He's been shot to earth to rule for a short time, and he's deceived a lot of people. But really, we can't blame things. We can't blame all things on the devil. We definitely can't blame God. We can blame ourselves to a point, but we can't blame ourselves for everything. So what's to blame? What's to blame is a little bit of all of it. We should only worry about what we can control, which is not much. The rest of it, it's very hard to do, and I'm still trying to do it. I'm 36 years old. I'm just now finally realizing that the surrender is where you're going to be led, where you need to go. I don't know where I'm going to be led. I don't know what's going to happen. And then some people, when they surrender, things get much worse before they get better. They become homeless. They lose their self, who they thought they were. That's the thing. Maybe we're stuck in a zone where we spent our whole lives becoming something and trying to live up to who we thought we were, who we tried to be. And when that gets taken away, what's there left? You feel kind of broken. You feel naked. Maybe in the surrender, we are made to be our true selves. Now, by surrender, I don't mean surrender to wickedness, surrender to defeat, or surrender to lawlessness or bad behaviors. I mean surrendering to the higher power, to Yahuwah Elohim, his real name. Surrender in the fact that you can say, hey, I've tried my best. I've worked hard. I've been patient with my family. I've been patient with my coworkers. I've been patient with myself. I've gone above and beyond what I can do. Physically speaking, working 15, 18, 20-hour days, getting 3 to 5 hours of sleep, 6 hours of sleep. I went out there and I tried to conquer the world. I did conquer the world, whatever the case may be. And then it comes back around and it hits you twice as hard. It hits you right in the face. And you're just like, why do I even bother? And that surrender, it's the hardest thing to do. Because we want to feel like we have a little bit of control. We want to feel like our religion, we can control that. Our spirituality, we can control that. Our work, we can work so hard that other people in our lives do stupid things and they cause us financial burdens or this or that. And we work so hard because, hey, now we can be foolproof from that. That's not how it works, though. In this life, there will be tribulations, there will be troubles. But in those troubles, there's always something to learn, always something to be realized. Sometimes we can't conquer things. Sometimes we can barely overcome things. Sometimes we can't do either one. In that spot, when you surrender, you have to be careful that the surrender doesn't become suicide or giving up completely on life. Surrender means all that stuff you can pray about, you can meditate about, and you give it away and you say, I can do no more. I am but a man. And you ask, what is there left in me that is rotten? What needs to be taken away? What is in me that is strong? What needs to stay? What in me is nature against? What in me is God against? What in me is God for? What in me can be used for the betterment of humankind? And that's when you start to separate from everything. you know? So what can be learned from these paths? The left and the right. So the right, let's just talk about them first. Because most people these days don't identify with religion as much. They do in Europe and Middle East, some parts of Africa. But the United States, some of the other parts of the world, they don't have religion anymore. So what happened to religion? What happened to the good things in religion? You want to take it all the way back to the Holy Roman Empire. The Catholic Church, you know? They held the truth in unrighteousness. And they forced everyone to do things according to their will. And they had God's truth with them. And instead of bringing peace, they brought their version of the sword to people. You take what we give you, and they added a bunch of things to it. They added a bunch of ceremonies and deeds and ideas and new holidays. They changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. So they took everything that was meant to purify people, and they used it as a weapon of war. We're doing this in the name of God. The church is higher than God, so we're going to change the times and the laws. That's a beast. That's a devouring, consuming beast. That is a wickedness that only God can handle. When that starts happening, people come together for the wrong things. And what's happened ever since Christianity became big, since the Islamic faith became stronger, what happened? At the head of both of those, if you really look into history, you have to do your research. Islam and Muslims, a lot of their beliefs were created by the Holy Roman Empire. Christianity, the Protestants, we broke away from the Catholic Church. The Baptists, we broke away from the Catholic Church. To a point, that's true, but you are the daughter of that. And the daughters usually end up being the same way as their mothers. So now you have, I don't know how many hundreds of denominations that there are in the world. I know there's at least 150, I think. So within Christianity, you have Protestants, you have the Reformation of God, you have the New Apostolic Reformation, you have Baptist, you have Southern Baptist, you have Lutheran, you have, what's the other one? So those are the Protestant side. And then you have a branch from them that broke off from them, and they have evangelicals, and they have a subset within the Protestants, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness, yada yada. The list goes down and down and down, okay? So most of these religions, they hold on to one or two things. That's their doctrine. And yes, they're right on some of those things, okay? So Seventh-day Adventists, we hold to the fact that they say we hold on to the fact that Saturday was the real day of rest, and the Roman Catholic Church changed it to Sunday. That is true, yes. And then they start bringing in things that other people don't agree with. So they say Archangel Michael is Yahusha, is Jesus Christ. I don't personally believe that's true. Why? Because once again, the Word was God, the Word was with God at the beginning. He helped create all things in existence. All things were created with the Son, with His Word. That Word cannot be an angel. That Word's set apart. That Word is part of the divine. God Himself is above the heavens. His seat of throne of victory, His light, and His likeness is above the heavens. In the heavens, there's angels. There's the divine angels, there's the archangels, and then there was originally the angels that were up there before they fell with Satan, okay? When those angels were cast out and they were shot to the earth, they were cast out of the heaven of heavens, but they were still allowed to roam around the second heaven, the third heaven, and the skies that we can see with our eyes. They roam all of that, and they do their works in the air. That's why the devil's called the prince of the air. Anyway, basically I'm trying to say every religion gets some things right, and every religion gets some things wrong. Because there's a division where there should be unity. There's a division where if man unifies them, they're going to be more wicked. The only thing that can reunify all the religions into the perfect truth that they're meant to be is when God returns. Only He can do it. And it's being done right now by man, and it's not going to be used for good. So, you look at all these people right now that are hailing President Trump as the Orange Jesus and the return of the Messiah, and quite possibly for the Jewish people, the Messiah ben David, the king that they want to crown. It's dangerous. They're all going extreme. Even some of the Muslims, within Muslims, I think they see President Trump and also the United States as an antichrist. They're actually kind of correct. The United States is another form of a beast. It has horns like a lamb and speaks like a dragon. So it has everything you want in religion and this and that, and they've gone out conquering and to conquer. So we've conquered everyone through war, and we've also gone out and evangelized to the whole world. Most of that has come from the United States. So we're divided in all that we do. Everything is divided. I'll get more into that in another video. But the right-hand path ends up leading to, at its extreme path, the religious path, ends up being led to a worship of man, because the left-hand path failed. The left-hand path being wicked in its worst state of mind as well. And that left-hand path was ruling the world for the last 100 years or so. The rise of feminism, science, witchcraft and black magic and metaphysical and crystals, all that stuff falls into the left-hand path. Is all of it wicked? It is now. Was it supposed to be wicked? No. So you study like chakras, the idea of understanding nature, that we are connected as one. All that stuff is spiritual, and all that stuff is true, okay? We have different parts of our body. Our chakras, our light comes out from the forehead, the mouth, the heart, the stomach, the arms, the hands, okay? I'm not fully familiar with chakras yet because I don't study it that much, but I do understand that the original form of that was not meant to be satanic. It was not meant to be considered wicked by everybody, okay? And when you study things about meditation, meditation would fall on the left-hand path too. It's spiritual in nature. It is used to connect you to the higher power, to Yahusha, to Yahweh Elohim, the real name of the Father and the Son. You do that through meditation. So, do I agree with the Eastern form of meditation? I don't. Eastern meditation, you clear your mind. You let anything come in. If you're not trained or taught properly, you could really mess up there, and things could take hold of you that shouldn't be inside of you. When you meditate, that's why it says, meditate on my word day and night. Meditate on God's word day and night. You can also meditate on things. When you meditate, you should focus on something. There should be a reason for it. You're either meditating on God's word, or you're focusing on something you need to improve in your life, something you need to get rid of in your life. You focus on that. Make it be released in your spirit. Gone. Shadow work, That's focused. That is meditation that has a purpose. That is the part of the left-hand path that I agree with. That you do those things in the right way, not the way the left-hand form of religion has made it to be. Okay? There are a lot of things that Buddhists and monks and all that, they have a good idea of the spirit world. Things that the right-hand path doesn't understand. So when you go down those paths, you start to realize that there are good and bad spirits. You understand that those spirits and those things can be inside of people and that they control a lot of behaviors and everything like that on a mystical side. So you talk to an average person who's on the right-hand path, the Christian, the Muslim, the Hebrew, the Jewish, anyone with a certain set of predetermined beliefs based on their physical teachings. They don't have a lot of knowledge of the spirit world. Some of them do and some of them don't. So you talk to a person about demonic possession. We'll use that as an example. Okay? Religion will say that, of course, that stuff happens, but they don't have a deeper understanding of where things come from. So you ask a regular person, what is a demon? Okay? People on the left hand have a little bit of a better sense of what a demon is than on the right, but they still don't get it all the way. A demon is a disembodied spirit of a giant that was in fleshly form. And that fleshly form giant was the mix of an angelic man from heaven with a human female from earth. When they connected and made children, they became giants. They came out as giants. They grew up as giants. They devoured everything. They devoured each other. They ate humans. Those fallen angels and the physical form of the giants were mutating genetics. They were mixing species. They were having sex with other species of things that were not human and making abominations that God did not want in the earth. So when those giants died, they became disembodied spirits. They have the spirit of the angelic realm mixed with the soul of a man. Those two things together made them very violent, unable to control themselves in the flesh. When they died, they became much, much worse. They start to make people sick. They're the reason why people get sick. Most sicknesses, if not all sicknesses, can be translated to demonic presence. So generational curses come, makes people sick, follows the same bloodline because of someone's sin from 100, 200 years ago. That spirit has been watching the weaknesses of everybody's genetics and following these people and making us sick. Mental disorders, mental diseases. It's those things coming into our spirits and our minds and racking us hard. And each spirit will put us farther to the left-hand path or to the right-hand path, depending on what it is. Now, where the left-hand path goes wrong is, yes, you have to understand the spiritual side of your body. You have to understand that third eye or whatever. It's not really called that. They've made it that with how things are. That part of you that's supposed to connect spiritually to the Father, to the Son, and to the things around you. Yes, that's there, and it needs to be acknowledged. That's why God says, follow me in spirit and in truth. So each side is getting something wrong. The right is following in truth, hard, lettered, rock hard truth. The left doesn't follow him because they're just spirit, and it deludes them to think that they're their own God, that they don't need God, that they are a form of a God and it can manifest everything that they want to manifest. When you start thinking that way, I've seen it done. People manifest whatever they want. But everything you want to manifest is not right for you. What do we want as humans? What do we want in our flesh? We usually want things that feel good, but they're not necessarily good for us. You can manifest a lot of different things. I've seen some people do it. I used to try and do it once in a while. And I still do to a point, but I don't want to get to the point where I'm thinking like, hey, I have the power, I don't need God anymore. What if that was a piece of the forbidden fruit that was given to Adam and Eve in the garden? What if the serpent, when Satan took the serpent and used him to talk to Eve, what if a piece of that fruit was, hey, everything that God is trying to teach you, I can show you how to do it yourself. I can show you the mystical side of everything. I can show you all your divine points of authority and your divine essence within, and you can make with it whatever you want. Because God says that the angels that fell had a form of wisdom, and they knew some things. It was basically some very basic craft, some very basic angelic powers. He said they ended up being useless ones. And they were useless, like astrology, astronomy, studying of the art of war, people building weapons. By the art of war, I don't mean the book by Sun Tzu. I mean the inherent willingness to go to war constantly, the art of wanting death and destruction. That was never supposed to be part of God's plan. That was never supposed to be part of our plan. We were never supposed to have these abilities without the help of God, because we wouldn't use them properly. Do I think the tree, the fruit that they ate, is inherently wicked? No. I think eventually man was going to be allowed to eat from that tree, the tree of knowledge. But we had to perfect the tree of life and love first. We had to perfect being with God, understanding that we have powers, but we have to submit those powers to God and let Him guide us. Because even the angels rebelled against God. A third of all the angels rebelled against God. The first rebellion before that, before Satan took a third of the angels and they were cast to the earth and they helped the demons of the earth create a bunch of war and chaos in this earth. The ones before that sat up on Mount Hermon and they said, we're going to make a pact together. We're going to go into these women. We're going to have children. They never experienced sex. They never experienced fleshly desire before they saw the women and they wanted them. So they made that mistake, but it wasn't really a mistake. It was premeditated. It was predetermined that they were going to use the things that God taught them. They were lower angels. They were watchers. By lower angels, I don't mean they were lesser than the other ones. I mean they were sent for a purpose. They were supposed to watch over people and guide them and lead us to fulfill the tree of life to a T. We were supposed to understand God's love in paradise before we were allowed to eat from that tree of knowledge and wisdom. Instead, they inverted it. Satan inverted that. And before that, the other fallen angels inverted and demented the things that were supposed to be for good. They took love and made it into lust, just like Satan took knowledge and put pride behind it. So there's been many falls, angelic falls. There's been many falls in heaven, just like there's been many failures and falling on earth from mankind. And that's the thing we have to understand. So that left-hand path, is some of the stuff they talk about true? Yes. Are they using it in the wrong way? Yes. Does that mean you should shun every little thing from there? No. But when you start taking your craft and you use the things you learned in spirit and you use them for your own pleasure, and you start to use it for wickedness on others, or you cast things out there to hurt other people, or you take the essence of someone's life and you use it for power, meaning sex magic or killing people and drinking their blood and all that stuff, that means you took all that spirit that was meant for good and you made yourself your own God. You did what you wanted to do. You took all the spiritual things that are supposed to be bound by laws and you turned it on its head and you just abused it. You abused it just like the right-hand path abuses the physical truth and makes people want to reject God. They blame God for the things that they learned in church. They blame God for the abuse they suffered as a child in church. Then they go to the other side and they make a mockery of all things that are in the Spirit. So what I'm trying to say is, you can learn a little bit from each side. You can learn a little bit from the people around you and from yourself. And knowledge and wisdom is good. But without love, you have nothing. Just like if you have love and you do things the right way, but you don't increase in knowledge and wisdom, you're going to be tricked into doing a bunch of different things. So basically what I'm just trying to tell people is, separate yourself for a while from whatever practice you're doing. Reflect on your own self. Reflect on the world around you. Reflect on all the things that are going wrong in your life and all the things that are going right in your life, if there's any at all. Just ask. Ask for perfect knowledge and wisdom, perfect love through surrender. Those times when things got too hard and the things you've done with your life don't make sense anymore. When you put in all this work and there's still people in your life, your family, friends, whatever, that are bringing you down. You cannot get past that financial burden. You cannot get past that spiritual blockage. Still do what's right. Still strive. But you surrender that to God. You ask Him, please just take control of everything. Because when we take control of it, eventually it becomes a disaster. I think that's the difference between King Solomon and Yahusha as well. So the living word of God never returns void, and he is God. He was God with God at the beginning. Solomon received all the power and more of any other man anointed by God in the history of the world. He became the wisest man to ever live, to ever walk this earth. He mastered the left-hand path. He mastered the right-hand path. He was able to be a rich man, to be married to however many different women, to understand God's laws and order. But what happened to him? Everything became tainted because he's just a man. We're just men and women. So imagine being able to know everything, being able to answer every single question, and have a definitive yes or no, to be right, to understand how to manipulate demonic presences. There's a story out there called the Testament of Solomon. He used the left-hand path against the demons. Apparently, he got them to build temples, this and that. It makes you wonder who really gave him that ring, first of all. It's a ring that he used to control the spirits and do his bidding, basically. And even if you don't believe in that story, you look in the regular scriptures of the Bible. If you're just one of those people who say, "Oh, I only stick to the King James Bible and I only believe what's in the 66 books of the canon," okay, you still look at King Solomon. It does say in there, he was the wisest man ever, before or after. And who did he attract into his life? He attracted a lot of strange women. Over 1,000 different women. It was like 300 wives and 700 concubines, roughly. The thing that led him astray was his own lust. The thing that led him astray was not surrendering everything he learned and giving it back to God and saying, continue to guide me. When he was first given authority and knowledge from God, he did it for the right reasons. He said, I want to have great knowledge and wisdom so I can guide your people properly. God never heard that before, so he gave him his wish. He came to him in a dream, and he anointed him, and he said, you're going to be the next king. You know? And eventually, ego, I think that's what it is, ego rose up inside of him. So instead of having one wife, he had many. Instead of having one concubine, because back then people had concubines too, he had 700. Instead of using his knowledge and wisdom to help the people and to solve their problems, he used it for his own benefit, and he stopped being in surrender. He took everything he learned from the tree of knowledge and wisdom and from the tree of life, and he started to use it for his own benefit. The ego of a man, the ego of a woman, the ego of all of us is just insane. Maybe that ego needs to die. Maybe that ego is the thing that tells us, hey, you are this for this reason. You spent your whole life doing this. You're anointed because of this. You are this, and this is your destiny. When in reality, it's just a piece of a bigger picture that we're supposed to handle for ourselves. So let's let that sink in for a little while. And I hope that I get some people giving me some responses here. Let me know what you think. It's just the day to surrender. The day to put aside all that we think that we know and accept who we're supposed to be. We all have our own destinies. And destiny, if it's not fulfilled, becomes fate. Sometimes you're translated back to destiny when your fate is strong. Strong fate. You're about to die. You're about to lose everything. You have lost everything. Even yourself. Maybe that's really what it means when he says, deny yourself and take up your cross daily. Maybe that's what that really means. Deny our ego. Deny everything that we've learned without the completion of it. What have we done with all the stuff we've learned? Is it completed? The works are not completed. What we learned is not what completed us. I just wanted to talk about that today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And throughout the next couple weeks, 2 months, I want to do better at maybe explaining things without having such a long video. But I'm just going to put this out there and start doing this more often. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. This is one of them. But this is going to branch off into many different topics. And I want you guys to be part of this. The next video I do, I'm going to pray about it when I do it too, just like I did this time. And I want to expand on this topic, but it's going to go off in different directions because there's a bigger point I'm trying to make here. And there's more to it than what I just said. I could go on for several hours, and it's not a good idea to do that. Because then I'm just talking about 30 things, 40 things, I want to focus on 2 or 3 different things, or one. We get through those topics and grow with each other. I want to learn something from you guys, and I want you to learn something from me. That's what my plan is here. And I want to encourage you guys all to stay strong, to surrender without giving up, to acknowledge where we fall short and how we can get better, but at the same time, letting God's perfect work be done in us, not by our own will, but by His. And bless you guys and have a good day.